2 dead in vehicle explosion at Rainbow Bridge U.S. Canada border crossing, officials say no sign of terrorism. Sources say 2 people were killed in a vehicle explosion Wednesday afternoon at Rainbow Bridge, a U.S.-Canada border crossing near Niagara Falls, in western New York. Officials said 4 U.S.-Canada border crossings in the region were closed as investigators responded to the situation. 3 crossings later reopened, with Rainbow Bridge remaining closed. Multiple law enforcement sources confirmed to news. 2 people died inside the vehicle that exploded. A senior law enforcement official told news that the nationalities of the 2 people who died are not yet known. It is not yet known why the car exploded, but New York Governor Kathy Hochul said in a news conference Wednesday that at this time there is no sign of terrorist involvement in the horrific explosion. Hochul said the vehicle was incinerated by the crash, with nothing remaining intact but its engine. She added that pieces of the car were scattered over 13 to 14 border security booths. There had been conflicting early reports about which direction the car was traveling, but Wednesday afternoon a senior U.S. law enforcement official told news the car was coming from the U.S. side. The official said it hit the customs station. Hochul said a Border Patrol officer who was in the customs station suffered minor injuries and was taken to a hospital, treated, and released. Preliminary federal government assessments and law enforcement sources indicate that the vehicle was traveling at a high rate of speed when it hit a curb, leading it to crash through a fence and a Customs and Border Protection inspection area, where it caught fire and exploded. Witnesses have told authorities that the vehicle launched into the air when it hit the fence and then exploded when it landed, a law enforcement source tells News Pat Milton. Officials have not yet determined whether the crash was deliberate or accidental, according to the preliminary assessments and law enforcement sources. Right now we have no indications of a threat of terrorism from it, FBI Special Agent in Charge Matthew Miraglia said at a Wednesday evening news conference. He did not release any details on the people in the car, saying we're still doing notifications for family members. He added, "We do not have any derogatory information on this person that we've identified." U.S. Attorney Trini E. Ross said at the briefing, "We will continue to investigate, but our preliminary assessment of this situation is it was not terrorism related, but we will continue to stay vigilant." Mike Gunter, a Canadian resident visiting New York, said he was walking nearby and saw the car speeding towards the border crossing. And he was flying over 100 miles an hour. Over 100 miles an hour. There was a car in front of him. He swerved out, went in front of the car, hit the fence, went flying up into the air, and we saw the fireball, and that's all we could see. There was just smoke everywhere. Gunter said the car was heading from the U.S. toward Canada. Randy Wilson, a Niagara Falls tour guide, said the crash was like a movie. Wilson said he was getting out of his car when he saw something airborne. "I first thought it was an airplane, looked like slow motion. And I said, my God, it's a car." Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in a speech to Parliament that the Canadian government is working in close contact with U.S. officials, and that additional measures are being contemplated and activated at all border crossings across the country. "We are taking this extraordinarily seriously," Trudeau said. Governor Hochul said in an earlier statement that the New York State Police is actively working with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to monitor all points of entry to New York, adding that she was on her way to Buffalo to meet with law enforcement and emergency responders. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, of New York, also said he had been briefed by the FBI. Initial reports indicate the 2 people killed were in the car, but nothing's been determined on their identity or motive, Schumer wrote on social media, adding that law enforcement remains on heightened alert over Thanksgiving. In addition to Rainbow Bridge, a popular crossing for tourists, connecting Niagara Falls, New York, with Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, 3 other bridges on the U.S.-Canadian border in the region were closed following the incident: the Peace Bridge, the Lewiston-Queenston, and the Whirlpool Bridge. Niagara Regional Police said later Wednesday that U.S. law enforcement officials were reopening the other 3 bridges to